back to that.
This lens or this. It's the same lens.
Greetings,
I tell you
viewer.
what, these opticians conning you.
How are you doing? Welcome to Full Record Jacket with Phil and Ben, the programme that
this lens,
you simply cannot predict.
this lens.
You'll know that we'll waffle about music. Oh, hang on. Stop. Hold it there. Hold it. No. Oh, that second one you just showed.
Yeah.
That one. You look so much better that way.
That one?
Yeah, you look fantastic.
Not this one.
You certainly look at... Yeah, that one. You definitely look best there. Could you just hold that there for the next half an hour?
Yeah. What, Jerry Adams in the 80s?
You wouldn't believe that this was a music show, would you, viewer? You wouldn't believe that we were actually here to chat randomly about songs, records, LPs,
yes,
CDs, tapes, streaming. Well, probably not tape. Have you played any tapes recently, Ben?
I haven't. I do have a few tapes. I do. In fact, I've got one just behind me up here. There is a cassette.
Oh, that's a recent one. That's a. I think of those as being manufactured nostalgia. The fact they're manufacturing cassette tapes now. I mean, what reason is there for doing that other than just to create an item that people will buy? I mean, does anyone actually want to listen to that?
I'm not sure. I mean, up in my loft, I've got lots of cassette tapes.
I mean, I can understand if you want to listen to something analog, if it's but then if you want to listen to something analog, why wouldn't you listen to a vinyl, which has higher fidelity than a cassette? I always thought those manufactured cassettes sounded a bit muffled, but
a bit muffled.
Oh, that's what I always thought about cassette. But although cassettes could sound very good if you taped your own and you used chrome tape, they sounded good.
Chrome tape.
Yeah, you could get chrome tapes. And some cassette decks.
I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah, most of the hi-fi cassette decks were designed to play chrome tapes. They had chrome.
1 second, I'm just going to move my headphones because I put them up my t-shirt, and because I thought I didn't want the wires showing, and it's really annoying.
And I think is it chrome oxide? It was what's used to coat the tape. Because aren't most of them are they standard bog standard ones ferric oxide? I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, viewer, if you know more about this than me. But I think the standard tapes were just this bog standard material. When you bought an album on tape, it was the bog standard material. But if you bought a chrome tape, then it was a better quality resolution. And you could also buy metal. You could have metal tape as well. That was also an option. Some cassette decks could play metal tape as well, but that
metal tape.
I think that
were they not prone to element changes in the atmosphere.
Well, it was called metal, but I think it was to do with the coating rather than it being completely made of metal. But I don't know the exact. I have to look it up. I have to look up cassettes. And then there were the different Dolby noise reduction. You know, the Dolby. I think it got as far as Dolby C, didn't it? Remember Dolby B, A, B, and C? Remember those?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I think I have. I still have a Sony cassette deck. I've got it plugged in at the moment. I've got it stored away somewhere, but I've got one that's got Dolby C on it.
Mine is. Do you know what make my cassette player is? I've just had a look at it. It's actually a Memorex one.
Oh right, okay.
Which I think were just a generic thing, because I think Tandy and places like that, it's just a generic.
I think Memorex was considered to be quite. I don't know. Yeah, was that made for? Memorex used to make tape, didn't they? And they did. Yeah. And they were quite highly regarded for their videotape back in the day. But I don't know whether they
re-record, not fade away. Re-record, not fade away. That wasn't Memorex, was it?
They were an IBM plug-compatible peripheral supplier. It ceased to exist in 1996, other than as a brand for recordable media. But yeah, I don't know whether they ever made their own cassette decks where they just had it made by someone else and put the brand on it. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think it's the same as, remember Tandy?
Yeah.
I think it's the same sort of thing as the Tandy model's exactly the same as that one. Basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Do you know what Tandy was in America?
Go on, Tandy.
You heard of Radio Shack?
Oh yes, yeah.
It's the same company, I believe. They were branded as Tandy over here. I don't know exactly why. But in America,
Radio Shack is it. Yeah, that might be Radio Shack Tandy. I bought stuff from Tandy back in the day.
Does Radio Shack still exist in America? It looks
like
it does,
doesn't it?
It looks like it does. We actually had some stores called that in England, but I'm pretty sure that Tandy and Radio Shack at one time were the same thing. They've now turned it into one word. It's now Radio Shack, but with a capital S. It was formerly written as Radio Shack as two words. You learn so many things on Wikipedia, don't you?
You do. Yes, you do. You do. Philopedia.
It was purchased. It started in 1921, and it was purchased in 1962 by the Tandy Corporation, which is a Texan company. So that's why Tandy and Radio Shack were the same thing in the 80s. I remember being told they were the same company. So they have actually had them, but they're still using it.
Because did Tandy get bought out by Dixon? So this has literally nothing to do with music at all.
It may well have done. Well, it's vaguely connected to music, isn't it? Because that's where you used to get blank tapes from and stuff like that.
Yeah. There were the days recording off the radio. Remember that? You became brilliant. That's why kids in the 80s are good at computer games, because they were so good at record, pause, record, pause, record, pause.
Trying not to have Bruno Brooks introducing the song.
Bruno Brooks. There's a name I haven't heard or thought about in about 15 years. Bruno Brooks and Mike Reed. Remember Mike Reed?
Yeah.
They were the, Bruno Brooks. What was the TV show he used to do? Beat the Teacher.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Yeah. It was a quiz thing on children's BBC.
Kids did the quizzes against teachers, yeah.
No. You got a teacher and you had a baseball bat.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that was the format. No, there was a quiz. It was a quiz-based show, Philster. Oh, Philster. Well, Rick, guess what? I've got something here which I'm yet to open.
Wow.
There we go.
Is that 7 inch?
I have pre-sliced it just in case I struggled.
Okay.
Do you want to see what it is?
Let's see your 7-incher then. I'm guessing it's a 7-incher, but
it is a 7-incher. Oh, I tell you what, the glue on this is I've sliced the tape, but the glue is oh, did you hear that? Oh, that was nice. Oh, it's 7 inches. Do you want a little clue? Do you want a little?
I can't guess. I'll have to guess it's Noel Gallagher related, but
it is Noel Gallagher related.
How did I guess that?
All right. You see?
I can't see what it is. Oh, it's actually it's one of those. Okay, it's Some Might Say.
It is the Some Might Say 7-inch limited edition 30th anniversary 7-inch single with the.
Now let me guess the B-side, because I had the CD single, and of course, there were 4 tracks on the CD single back in the day.
3 B-sides, yeah.
And it had "Talk Tonight" on it, I think.
Yes.
I think it had "Head Shrinker" on it.
It did.
And I think that was the 4th track there. I think it had "Acquiesce." Now I think
it did.
I may have got this wrong, but I think "Acquiesce" was track 2.
It was.
So does that mean it was the B-side of that? So I'm going to have to guess "Acquiesce."
It is "Talk Tonight."
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah. I know, because
I suppose it makes sense because it's a contrast to the A-side, isn't it? So
yes, yeah, and "Acquiesce" actually got a release, didn't it, in the 2000s?
It did, but I didn't know whether it was the original B-side. Was that? Did that come out in the 90s? Sure. Was there a 7-inch released in the 90s? There must have been, because they made LPs. Look? Well, they made LPs, didn't they? And so
I would like to go to because this station is this side of the track isn't used. It's in Derbyshire, and I would like to go there as a little homage
with a wheelbarrow and some fish.
Wheelbarrow and some fish. I think that's Brian Cannon. I think that's his dad.
Oh, that's him. The guy who actually designed the sleeve.
I think that's Brian Cannon here. I'm sure that's him in it. Or is that Noel Gallagher? That's Liam Gallagher up there, I think. I'm sure that's Brian Cannon's dad. But
I didn't realise that that the members of the band were in it. I'd not really looked.
I could be wrong. That could be Brian Cannon, but it got very much a Noel Gallagher hairline. Let's have a look. Some might say. Some might say. Here we go. So it was released famously for Liam Gallagher, wasn't it? Making Sunshine have more syllables than it was ever meant to have. It was the last recording with Tony McCarroll. Right, the artwork, the sleeve was created by Brian Cannon of Microdot, and it is shot at the disused platform of Cromford Railway Station in Derbyshire. And I was right, that is Brian Cannon's dad with the wheelbarrow. And it is his mum here with the mop, holding a mop.
So it's all staged, basically. They didn't just show up and there was a guy with a wheelbarrow and some fish. They staged the whole thing.
They did indeed. This girl here is Carla Knox, who worked in Brian Cannon's local pub. And that is Liam Gallagher on the bridge.
Okay.
And that is Noel Gallagher with the watering can. So... and then Matthew Sankey, who was an aide, Brian Cannon's aide, he plays the homeless man. He is the man who cannot shine because he lives in hell. So, but the B-side, let's have a look. Track listing. United Kingdom. The 7-inch single was, some might say, And Talk Tonight. The 12-inch single had Acquiesce on it. So there we go.
You've given me a great link to show you what I got this week. Because you see that...
a segue, as
because you see that Liam... You should go back and show us Liam on that bridge. So
Liam is on the bridge. Where is it?
It's on
there he is,
side.
Up here.
Well, that's... Oh, yeah, you can see that it's him, can't you? Now, wouldn't it be... Imagine if they had actually got an American soul legend... instead of Liam. Could you imagine if they got James Brown there instead of Liam? Because then they could have said they'd taken him to the bridge.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like what you've done
there.
That? Yeah, you've done well there, Phil.
This is what I got this week, Ben. Now, I've wanted this for about 30 years. And I finally got it.
What's put you off getting it for 30 years?
I don't know. Well, I haven't sort of been waking up every single day for 30 years. That would be a bit of a lie to say that I've been waking up every day wanting it for 30 years. But this came out in 1991. This is James Brown's Star Time. This is the box set that came out on the Polydor label. This is the CD version. And this was very highly acclaimed at the time because the two guys who put this together did a lot of work on tape research and everything, and it's reckoned to still be the definitive digital version of James Brown. There's 4 discs in there; they all look pretty much the same. This was very much the 90s standard for a box set, wasn't it? You got a plastic in it, you got a box, plastic in and you actually got the CDs in the standard
in the cases
inside, which I do quite like actually, because nowadays they just stick it all in cardboard, don't they? And you actually got this, so you could, if you wanted to, take these out and put them on your shelf. You can do that if you wanted quick access. But
you're like Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen with your household designer tips.
Yeah, they've labelled each.
You've got one of his shirts on anyway.
Yes, each disc has its own name. So disc 1 is Mr. Dynamite. Disc 2 is the hardest working man in show business. Disc 3 is Soul Brother Number 1, and then The Godfather of Soul. And it runs through from 1956, his first single, Please, 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 right through to the 80s. It doesn't actually have the Rocky tune on it. It doesn't have Living in America on it. I think that must have been maybe a contractual thing. But
Living in America.
I've got that somewhere else. And another track that's not on here is my favourite Christmas soul song, which is Hey America. But You can't knock the rest of what's on here. It's looking a teeny little bit battered around the edges, but I kind of like that because it makes it feel like an old artifact, almost as if it's come from the 60s, you know?
And like you've owned it for the last 30 years.
And like I've owned it for the last 30 years and given it lots of love.
So how much were you talking for an artifact like that?
I got this for 25 quid on eBay, which is not bad, is it?
That's less. I've done the maths.
Yeah.
That's less than £1 for every year you've wanted it.
Yeah. It's certainly...
Which is pretty good going.
And you do get quite a lot of... What does that say? The Stones can't stop talking about King James. There's quite a lot of info in the booklet. I haven't read it all, but there's 62 pages inside the booklet. So there's, something to read as well.
I always find when you get a booklet in, like an album or something, I never read them because I don't want to open it.
But we should read these, shouldn't we? Because it's historically...
Yeah, we should. We should, you're right.
Interesting. So...
I've got behind me, it's in here. Now, a bit like yours, the box is a bit tatty. I've got the 2008 Dig Out Your Soul box set, and I actually opened it up the other day, the inside, and that's got a booklet. And obviously I've had it since 2008. Now, if I do the maths, that's 17 years.
17 years.
I know. And I've never opened that booklet, and I never opened it when I took it out of the box before either. So I didn't want to sort of ruin it.
I have got some albums where I've not read the booklets properly, and I should read the booklets properly, shouldn't I, really?
No, that's what they're there for, I suppose. And the thing is, these things will only be worth money when we're dead. So
exactly.
You might as well read them because they're not going to be worth anything to you when you've snuffed it anyway, are they? So it'll just be kids or relatives just going, "Oh, if only I hadn't opened this booklet," and you'll be sat there on a cloud going, "Tough, isn't it?"
Got something else as well.
Go on.
I got Benny Goodman and the famous Carnegie Hall concert from 1938. They recorded that.
Oh,
and this is
it's
the Sony Legacy Edition, and it's supposed to be the best restoration. I love these old jazz. Just me, Ben. I just love this old jazz stuff. I love going back to the 1930s and being at a Benny Goodman concert in Carnegie Hall.
Well, it takes you back to when you were young, doesn't it, Phil?
Absolutely, yeah.
The world was a different place for you, Philster, back then, wasn't it?
Now,
colour TV was just a pipe dream for you back then.
I've also got a dad rock confession, which I don't know whether I should make on air, but I could do that. But I've also got news, Ben, because I may have coined a musical theory in the last couple of weeks online. Now, I just in the middle of an online discussion, kind of jokingly made this comment, and people really liked it and thought it was really insightful. I don't think it really was, to be quite honest. But so
I'll be the judge of this.
So the discussion was centered around. Was it centered around R.E.M. themselves, or was it just this? Anyway, the discussion got onto this album, R.E.M. We all know this album, Automatic for the People, from '92, and then people were discussing the album, and obviously you get a range of opinions. Some people like it, favourite album ever, wonderful, and other people say, "Oh, it's boring, it's depressing. I like some of their other stuff, but this is depressing," etc., etc. Right? But even amongst some of the people, you got the Smiths debut there in the background. Even amongst some of the people who like the album, there are some people who don't like one particular song on there.
Can I guess which song it is?
You can guess which song it is.
Is it the song that Michael Stipe himself doesn't really like, and they don't play it live ever?
Or didn't? Well, you have to guess.
And was it a big single?
Well, it was a big single. I don't know if it's the one you're thinking of.
Oh, is it not Shiny Happy People?
No, that's the album before.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
That's Out of Time.
Is it Losing My Religion?
It's one that Michael Stipe's not ashamed of. In fact, he's quite proud of it because he thinks it saved people's lives.
Everybody Hurts.
Everybody Hurts. Now, some people don't like Everybody Hurts because they think it's... Well, I suppose it is a little bit different to what they normally did, wasn't it? So I just said... I don't have a problem with Everybody Hurts. I mean, it was played a lot at the time, wasn't it? And maybe you could get a bit fed up with it. But I think it fits okay in the album, and I don't want to skip it or anything like that. But I did say, offhand comments, I said, I suppose you could say they kind of, with that song, they did kind of invent Coldplay. But they didn't know what they were doing. So if you hate Coldplay, you can't really blame them for it because it was 1992 and they didn't know that they were inventing Coldplay just by making a song. So that's basically it. So R.E.M.
That's actually
invented Coldplay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was around the time there was a lot of those sort of songs. Because remember, like Crash Test Dummies and people like that. There was a lot of that sort of,
I suppose,
somber.
That came a little bit after as well, though, didn't it? Because wasn't that 93, 94?
93, 94, yeah.
So did Everybody Hurts invent that whole genre?
Well, if it did, it's got a lot to answer for. I say that I don't mind Coldplay. Some of their stuff is a bit but the first album is the first couple of albums are brilliant.
I do like Rush of. I've just held up Rush of Blood to the Head. I do have Rush of Blood to the Head, and I do think it's good. But obviously, it's the kind of you have to be in that mellow mood for it, don't you?
Yeah, I went to see him on that tour actually, the Rush of Blood to the Head tour.
Yeah,
and we got stuck at the NIA car park for ages, and me and my mate found an old CD on the top floor, and we were trying to play frisbee with a knackered CD. All I can say is, kids, there's a reason why CDs aren't frisbees. Because they make rubbish frisbees. That's all I'm going to say.
Now, I got hold of a CD the other day, which some people might use as a frisbee, but I bought this CD for 89p. Okay?
God.
And it came with the CD in perfect condition, not scratched. It came with a booklet, and it came with the back for the CD tray. Okay? But it didn't have the actual case, the actual plastic jewel case. So, but obviously I've got plenty of those hanging around. So I have now put it into a jewel case, and it's now in my CD collection. It's the first time I've owned a CD by this band, and it's the first time I've owned a CD with anything on it by this guy who was the lead singer of this band, who also had a massively successful solo career and sold millions and millions of records, but I've never actually owned a CD of him. So can you guess what that is? Now I'm going to say that this is in the dad rock category. Now I know we talked about dad rock a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? And I don't know whether we mentioned this band. Well, I think we may have mentioned the lead singer in the dad rock category.
I am going to have a stab.
Yeah.
I think, because I was thinking about this guy the other day, because I was watching the film Wickedly Evil Thingy and Vile about Ted Bundy. Have you seen it?
No.
It's very good. Zac Efron is Ted Bundy, and it's written from... It's from the book of his partner, his long-term partner, and that is Lily Collins is the actress who plays his wife, and Lily Collins' dad shares the same barber as you, and his name's Phil. Am I correct? Would it be Genesis?
You are correct. I've got And I mean, it's I'm sort of buying Genesis in reverse, aren't I? Because this was the last album with Phil Collins.
Yeah, yeah.
But I just remember this from the time. I wasn't into them at the time. I thought they were a bit dad rock at the time, even though I was into a bit of dad rock because I liked Dire Straits and I liked, I liked a fair bit of what
Is
you
that the
might
one with
call.
the video where they're
I think they did do
doing the
that
silly walk across
for
the
one of the
screen?
songs. Yeah, so there you go. There's Phil. You can't call him a party pooper. He's even got the hat on.
A hat on. Yeah, yeah.
The thing I found really interesting about this is on the CD. Well, I don't know how I said it's interesting. It's just a bit nerdy, really. If you look at the CD, they've got a copyright thing there, and it's copyright 1991, Anthony Banks Limited, Philip Collins Limited, and Michael Rutherford Limited. And then there's another company as well. So they each have their own individual company, and they jointly own the copyright. It's kind of a way to. I don't know how many other bands have done that, but that's obviously what Genesis did. I always thought of Genesis as being a band that were liked by either when I was
People
younger.
who wore
Obviously,
jumpers in the summer.
yeah, when I was it's exactly it. When I was younger, obviously anybody over 35 or 40, you thought they were old, didn't you? So I thought it was a band that were liked by old men with beards who drank real ale, or computer nerds. Because that
probably
was
so.
yeah.
Look, I'm a young man with a beard.
Do you drink real ale, Ben?
Occasionally.
And do you wear a jumper in the summer?
It gets cold, Phil. I'm a man of a certain age. If it's anything below 28 degrees, that is jumper weather.
I think Genesis, because when Phil Collins became the lead singer, they went more towards the mainstream, didn't they? And they had more hit songs and that kind of thing. And I think the more, if you're in people who were into the later Genesis, the more Phil Collins era, they were more towards computer nerds. And people who liked the more early stuff were more towards wearing jumpers and sandals. But am I completely wrong about that? Are we just being terribly prejudiced?
Possibly, yes.
Against people who wear jumpers in the summer, or against Genesis fans generally. But do you know what?
Jumper wearers.
I've never been really into prog rock. It is a genre that's
I've tried. I've got Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I've got some Yes and things like that. But
I've never really got into prog rock. So I don't mind a little bit of their later stuff where it's more towards mainstream pop rock than prog. But I'm starting to think maybe I should listen to a bit more prog. I always had this idea that it was just boring old stuff for boring old people. So that was kind of maybe.
Yeah, but we are now those boring old people.
Exactly. Phil. And so does this mean I should now be getting into some prog and going back to the 70s and
wearing knitted clothing,
digging flute solos.
Solos.
You see, this started because I was listening to that Traffic album, which is a little bit proggy.
It is a little bit proggy, and it's taking you down a wormhole.
It's got some flute on it, even. And
the flute is the flute a worse instrument to have on an album than a saxophone?
Probably. Now, I'll tell you which song. The first rock song I ever had in my own music collection that had a flute on, and I didn't really think that much about it at the time. But as is well known, I'm quite a big fan of Neil Young. And back in '94, Neil Young
actually sounded like a really bad flute playing. Then
there was someone's squeaky brakes outside. What was I saying?
Couldn't have come at a better time.
Perfect timing. What was I saying? Neil Young. He did "Sleeps with Angels," the album in '94 with Crazy Horse, which is it's Neil Young and Crazy Horse in a slightly subdued style, not full on rocking out like they normally do. And there's a bit more piano on that album, and there's a few more ballads on the album. But one song, the second song on the album, called Prime of Life, on the album version, which is a slightly more up-tempo, medium-tempo, guitar-dominated song, typical Neil Young sort of guitar song, there is a flute. And it really works well on that song because it just adds this slightly eerie, atmospheric edge to it. And I always liked that song. I didn't really think, wow, I'm loving a rock song that's got a flute on it. But I was loving a rock song that had a flute on it. Now, I don't think I've ever bought any other songs on any that have a flute on until I got hold of that Traffic album, and then it's got flute on.
Well, Noel Gallagher's Holy Mountain has got a flute on it. Well, no, it's a tin whistle. Does that count? Okay. Is that flute-esque?
Well, I suppose it is in the same kind of ballpark, isn't it?
It's got wind going through it.
Yeah.
It's not a wind. They're not wind instruments, are they? They're breath instruments.
They count. Now, does a flute count as a reed instrument?
It's a breath instrument.
Isn't it a reed instrument rather than being a brass instrument? Am I right to think it?
I don't know. To be fair, it's not one of those things that has kept me up at night, wondering what type of instrument
it doesn't have a reed.
Flute is.
It's saxophone has a reed, doesn't it?
Is that where you blow into it?
It's where you blow into it. You can have a saxophone, but do flutes not have a reed? I'm showing my complete ignorance here, aren't I? Maybe they don't have a reed; they just have a hole that you blow into. I've never played a flute in my life. Honestly,
that surprises me because you look like a flute player. You look like somebody who would love playing the flute, Philster. What are you up to this weekend, Philster? I'm at Flute Club, and you know the first rule of Flute Club? Oh yeah, nobody talks about Flute Club.
They're not really reed. No, they're not reed. I see. It's just you're blowing across the hole. I suppose. I mean,
blowing at possibly the sexiest thing you've said all day, Philster. That.
But I could rely on you, kind of, to drag it down, drag it down into the gentlemen's toilets.
Yes, into the gutter.
Yeah. Now, I suppose there's an ancientness about it, isn't there? Because of course, some of these cultures have, old panpipe type things and that. So that style of instrument is very, very traditional.
Panpipes were massive at one point, weren't they?
They were. Was that like in the 90s?
Late 80s, 90s.
People were buying CDs of panpipes. Now,
I remember walking through the town and somebody was there in a massive suitcase, like selling panpipe music.
The thing that I actually don't mind the sound of that kind of thing, but I would like it if somebody did or had done an album of panpipe music that was all natural acoustic stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they were playing the kind of music that they play out in the Andes Mountains or wherever it's from, yeah. And it was like, like a Paul Simon album. Either do some original music with it or do the old style music. Do like the old. It's like Indian sitar, right? If I wanted to listen to that, I'd want people to be playing Indian type traditional music on it, right?
Yeah, not cover versions of
Enya or ABBA or whatever. Yeah, and this is it. And I heard all these panpipe CDs that got sold were basically produced, weren't they? And they had modern record production, and they had doing covers of pop songs, which is just like I don't want to hear people playing covers of pop songs.
I think there were things like panpipe parties,
really?
I mean, there were some things which were left.
Are you sure that wasn't just a euphemism to disguise what was actually going on?
Yeah. But you think the 80s was weird because you had Tupperware parties, weird, panpipe part. There's some things best off left in the 80s. Margaret Thatcher, Phil Collins. There's a lot that should be left back in the 80s. But panpipes, what was that song? The Lambada or whatever it was. Na 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 na.
Oh, yeah. Was that in the 80s?
Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the 80s. Because how I remember that is my mum and dad went to a school disco. Remember when schools used to do a disco for the parents? Which
Did
is,
they really?
once
Wow.
again, incredibly weird
That's just
thing
really
that the
weird.
80s gave us.
Yeah.
And my mum and dad won at a school disco for the adults the sexiest dance for the lambada, which even just saying that makes me do a little bit of sick in my mouth. The thought of Colin giving it some no, 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 no. I mean, my mum, I can understand. She was a sexy lady, but my dad, he's doing the lambada. Even now makes me feel a little
I
bit.
just, yeah, I have to say, I could imagine your mum doing the lambada with
Yeah.
one of the male dancers from Strictly Come Dancing. You know, I can imagine her being a
Yeah,
contestant on there doing
yeah,
it.
but not old Colin.
No,
Well, he wasn't old then. He was only in his late 30s, early 40s. But doing the
he would still
lambada,
have looked old doing the lambada, wouldn't he?
he would have.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Colin, but that's just the way it
Yeah.
goes. So,
Yeah,
I have to say, so would I have looked old doing the lambada, but there we are.
yeah. The thought that your parents won sexiest dancers is. No wonder I've got a period of my youth that I've just blacked out at the time.
It explains a lot, then.
It does, yeah, it does. But every time I hear that song, it brings me out in a rash and makes me ill. Which is probably why I've got this cough and that. I've probably heard it in a supermarket somewhere.
Now, the thing is, you just said that Phil Collins better left in the 80s, but it's. I just wanted to talk a
Because that's
little
when
bit.
he was good.
Yeah.
He was good in the 80s.
Well, I just want to talk a bit about Phil Collins because I think that I want to kind of apologise to Phil Collins because I've kind of been a little bit unfair on Phil
I
Collins,
think everybody has.
and I've never slagged him off really, but I never really bought his albums, and I think the reason I never really bought any of his records was partly because he was everywhere anyway, so you didn't really need to buy them, did you? Because he was just turned on the radio and there'd be a Phil Collins song. And I used to have it in my head that I didn't really like his voice, that it was something in his vocal tone that I didn't like. But for some reason, I've come round to being more favourable towards him. I don't know why.
To the Collins.
Is it a little bit of nostalgia? Just because
Yeah.
because he was
Is it the opposite of buyer's regret?
Because he was around there in the he was around there in the 80s, and he was kind of part of the background of your childhood and the younger years, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So is there a nostalgia value in that? Is it because he's had a few health problems in recent times, and you think, yeah, it's a bit of a shame because he was an energetic guy and gave it everything,
and he knew a drum solo,
and and I always said he was a brilliant drummer. I mean, his drumming is up there with any of the great rock drummers out of any of the bands, really, pretty much.
Yeah.
Whoever you want to talk about.
Robert Plant may say something different.
Yeah, well, I think that was a bit of a unfortunate episode, wasn't it? That he was kind of blamed for that, but they had no chance to rehearse, did he, with them? So
they had no chance to rehearse. And to be fair, Robert Plant at live, his voice was dreadful, which didn't help.
I haven't watched that in a long time. Because it hasn't been officially released, has it? Is it still on YouTube? I think you can get it on YouTube.
It is, yeah, because Zeppelin banned an official release of it, didn't they?
They didn't allow it to be put on the DVD.
Yeah.
They stopped it getting released, and they also stopped. I think they also stopped Robert Plant's performance at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert from going on to the official release as well. But yeah, Led Zeppelin had an unfortunate history of these guest appearances at these big events after the band had split up, because they did live aid. That was in America, wasn't it? Because wasn't that Phil Collins had flown over on Concorde and they were in America?
Concorde, yeah.
And they did. I don't know, what did they do? Did they do rock and? I think they did rock and roll. I think I've seen them do rock and roll. Did they sing "Stairway to Heaven" as well? Or maybe they didn't. I can't remember. But they then when I think it was just Robert Plant on his own, appeared with Queen at the Mercury tribute concert. Do you remember that one? That was it '92?
I do, yeah. George Michael and Annie Lennox, people like that.
Axl Rose was on there. Lisa Stansfield was on it.
Oh, Lisa Stansfield, the first album I ever bought, Lisa Stansfield's Affection.
She was 1992. She was massive then, wasn't she?
She was, yeah.
But yeah, Robert Plant did Innuendo, which is a Queen track that's probably one of the closest to Zeppelin that Queen did. It's a very Zeppelin-style song in some ways. So it suited Robert Plant to be doing that, because there's a little bit of a Kashmir kind of influence on that. So, and it's not terrible. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's not terrible. But obviously Robert Plant wasn't happy with the performance. I think there was maybe a bit of a timing issue or something. But it showed that he could have done a great version of it if he'd done, had time to do it properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was unfortunate. So I suppose it must have been quite a relief for Zeppelin when they did their 2007 full reunion show at that Armageddon tribute at the O2, that they actually pulled it off well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So that was it. But Phil Collins, I mean, vocally, he did some good vocals. He gave it a lot.
Good pop songs. I think I have had my views on Phil Collins, mainly for comedy value, but there's nothing offensive about him.
The other thing I was going to say about him, which is an interesting fact, in the 80s in America, because I think he had 4 number ones in the UK during the 80s, right? But he was even bigger in America. During the 80s, Phil Collins had 7 number one singles on the US Billboard Hot 100, right?
Yeah,
that's not just on the adult pop chart, although there's other multiple format charts they have in America. The actual Hot 100, that's really, really hard to have a number one in America. Much harder than it is to have one in the UK. Yeah. And he had 7. But Michael Jackson had 8 number ones in the 80s in America. Madonna had 7, and Prince had 4. So he's on the level with Madonna and Michael Jackson. I mean, that's unbelievable, isn't it? Really, he's a bald British Cockney drummer, and he's having the same number of hit singles as these, ultra iconic pop stars. I mean, it's unbelievable. So when you look back on his career, you think this was quite an extraordinary achievement. You have to hand it to him. So, Phil Collins.
Done, Phil.
I have to say that maybe I have overlooked you a little bit over the years. And
maybe next time you're at the barbers together, you should have a little chat.
We could do, couldn't we? Well, next time we're comparing hairstyles.
What are you having today, sir? I'm having the 2. Phil. And you, Phil? I'm having the Phil.
Should it be a number 2 or number 3? Or
yeah. A low fade. It's already faded away, most of it anyway. So, I do bully you, Phil. I do apologise.
So we got to Phil Collins. I mean, where do we go from here?
The pub,
if you like.
Yeah, let's do it.
Viewer, it's a nice day. We're going to go to the pub. We wish you a lovely day as well. We will be back with another randomly digressing music discussion at some indeterminate point in the future. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. All the best.
Ciao.